My child, listen carefully. This is not a random moment, and these words are not drifting toward you by accident. They arrive with purpose, pressing through the noise of your life to reach the quiet place inside you. You are reading this now because the moment has been appointed. Time as you know it has narrowed. What once felt distant is suddenly near, and what you assumed could wait no longer can. I speak to you because your life has reached a threshold. There is a space before you, unseen yet real, where choice becomes consequence. You stand there now. Not tomorrow. Not someday. No. Do not rush past this moment. Do not treat it as background sound. Still yourself. Let your breathing slow. Let the weight of this instant settle. Because what unfolds from here will shape what comes next. You are not being addressed by chance, nor are you lost in a crowd of listeners. This call is personal. It finds you exactly where you are, uncertain, weary, searching, or perhaps quietly aching for clarity. You may not have known what you were looking for, but something in you recognized this moment the instant it arrived. That recognition is not imagination. You have asked questions you did not know how to phrase. You have wondered whether your prayers dissolved into silence or whether they were heard at all. You have questioned whether the distance you feel is proof of abandonment or simply exhaustion. Hear this clearly: none of your cries were ignored. None of your tears fell unnoticed. Nothing in your life has been unseen. But there are moments when comfort is not enough, when clarity must replace delay. This is one of those moments. You have been given time before. Space to wander, to hesitate, to learn through trial and error. That season is ending. Not because mercy has run out, but because opportunity does not remain open forever. There are doors that only open for a while. There are invitations that expire if unanswered. You feel the urgency because it is real. This is not fear speaking. It is awareness. A knowing that something is shifting beneath the surface of your life, something larger than routine or habit. You may sense it as restlessness, as pressure, as a pull you cannot explain. That is the weight of decision pressing against your spirit. You are closer to change than you realize. You stand at the edge of something meant for you, something prepared long before you understood you needed it. Purpose waits there. Direction waits there. Release waits there. But it cannot be carried forward without your attention. It cannot be forced upon you. It requires your willingness to stop running, stop numbing, stop postponing. You have mistaken delay for safety. You told yourself there would be time later, time to reflect, time to grow, time to return to what you once felt so clearly. But time does not pause simply because you are unsure. It moves quietly, relentlessly, and every moment unclaimed becomes a moment gone. You are not being rushed to frighten you. You are being awakened because you are needed, present, alive, attentive. You have been surrounded by distractions that felt harmless at first, noise that softened the edges of your unease, comfort that dulled your hunger for something deeper. And slowly, without noticing, you drifted from the center of who you were meant to be. Yet even then you were not abandoned. You were watched, guarded, waited for. There were signs along the way, moments that slowed you down, losses that redirected you, interruptions that frustrated you. You dismissed them as coincidence or inconvenience. But they were invitations, attempts to draw your attention before the moment grew more serious. Now it has. You cannot pretend anymore that nothing is happening. The tension you feel is not anxiety without cause. It is the friction between who you are and who you are becoming, between comfort and calling, between delay and decision. Stay here. Do not turn away from the discomfort. Do not reach for distraction to quiet it. Let it speak. Let it bring you fully into this moment. Because something is being asked of you, not perfection, not understanding, not strength, but presence. You are not required to have everything figured out. You are required to be honest. Honest about your exhaustion. Honest about your fear. Honest about the parts of you that have grown numb, the parts you have hidden, the parts you hoped no one would notice. Nothing is gained by pretending now. There is no need to perform, no role to play. You are seen as you are. You have been fighting battles that were never meant to be carried alone. You tried to manage pain through effort, confusion through control, emptiness through motion. You told yourself that if you just stayed busy enough, strong enough, productive enough, the ache would fade. It didn't, because it was never meant to be solved that way. You were not created to endure life through sheer will. You were created for connection, anchored, guided, sustained. When you moved away from that center, fatigue followed. Not as punishment, but as signal. A signal calling you back. There are things waiting for release in your life. Peace you have not known, clarity you have not experienced, healing you have barely dared to hope for. They are not withheld out of cruelty. They are held because timing matters and alignment matters. What you do now matters. This moment is not ordinary. It carries weight because it is an intersection. Past habits on one side, future direction on the other. You cannot remain standing here forever. You will move, either intentionally or by default. Choose intentionally. You are being asked to listen, not with your ears alone, but with a part of you that recognizes truth when it comes near. That part of you is awake right now. That is why this feels heavy. That is why it feels urgent. Do not silence it. There are forces that benefit from your hesitation. Voices that whisper that this can wait, that nothing is truly at stake, that you will come back to this when life is quieter. Those voices do not speak for your good. They thrive on delay. But delay has a cost. Opportunities wither when ignored. Sensitivity dulls. Courage erodes. And what once felt obvious becomes distant. This is not meant to shame you. It is meant to protect you. Too many turn away at the edge of breakthrough, not because they lack faith but because they underestimate the moment. They mistake intensity for pressure and retreat to what feels familiar. Later they wonder why the door never reopened. You are being spared that regret. You are being invited to step forward while the door is still open. Pause. Breathe. Let yourself feel the seriousness of this moment without panic. Urgency does not mean chaos. It means clarity. It means now is different from before. You are not alone here. Even now, you are surrounded by care you cannot see. Guidance has not abandoned you. You are not navigating this moment blind. You are being held steady so you can choose without fear. You may feel unworthy. You may feel unprepared. You may feel as though you have failed too often to be trusted with something meaningful. Those thoughts are not truth. Worthiness was never the requirement. Willingness is. You do not need to clean yourself before stepping forward. You step forward to be restored. You do not earn what is being offered. You receive it. But receiving requires openness. Let go of the belief that you must be strong first. Let go of the belief that you must understand everything before you move. Let go of the belief that your past disqualifies you. It does not. Remain here a moment longer. Do not rush to define what you feel or explain it away. This is not the time for analysis or defense. This is the time for truth, the kind that does not accuse but reveals. The kind that uncovers what has been buried beneath habit and survival. You have lived long enough reacting to life instead of listening to it. Now you are being asked to look inward, not with judgment, but with courage. There is a mirror before you, not made of glass but of awareness. It reflects more than your actions. It reveals your motives, your wounds, your longings, the quiet places you rarely acknowledge. You have avoided this reflection because it felt safer to stay distracted than to be honest. But avoidance has cost you more than honesty ever could. Look closely. You see strength there but also exhaustion. You see resilience but beneath it, grief that was never given language. You see faith but also fear that crept in slowly and learned how to hide behind reason. None of this disqualifies you. It explains you. You were shaped by moments that demanded more than you had to give. You learned to endure, to adapt, to carry weight silently. You learned how to appear steady even when something inside you was cracking. Over time, survival became your default posture. But survival is not the same as living. There are parts of you that learn to close off, not because you were cold but because you were overwhelmed. You sealed certain doors inside yourself to keep pain from spilling out. You told yourself you would return to them later when life felt safer. Later became never. Those sealed places still exist. They hold disappointment you never processed, hopes you stopped naming, prayers you stopped finishing. They also hold potential, raw, untouched, waiting to be breathed into again. This is why you feel divided. One part of you wants depth, meaning, renewal. Another part is tired of effort, wary of disappointment, cautious of hope. These parts have been at odds for a long time, pulling you in opposite directions. That tension is not failure. It is a signal that something inside you wants to come back into alignment. You have mistaken distance for protection. You thought that keeping certain emotions at arm's length would keep you safe. That if you didn't expect too much, you wouldn't be hurt again. That if you didn't open fully, you wouldn't be disappointed. So you learned to manage life instead of trusting it. But what you managed, you also limited. Trust was not lost because you were foolish. It was lost because you were wounded. And wounds, when left unattended, change how you see everything. They teach you to brace instead of receive. Yet even now, nothing about you is beyond restoration. You were never meant to carry your life as a solitary project. Fixing, improving, correcting yourself endlessly. That weight was never yours to hold. It hardened you in places meant to stay soft. It turned growth into strain and faith into performance. No wonder you're tired. The weariness you feel is not because you lack discipline or effort. It is because you have been trying to generate life from a place of depletion. You have been pouring from an empty vessel and wondering why nothing satisfies. You don't need more pressure. You need release. You don't need harsher standards. You need gentler truth. There are beliefs you've absorbed that were never meant to guide you. That your value depends on consistency. That mistakes cancel progress. That rest must be earned. That vulnerability is dangerous. That asking for help is weakness. Those beliefs did not come from wisdom. They came from pain. And pain, while it teaches survival, is a poor teacher of identity. Who you are is not defined by what you failed to protect, what you couldn't sustain, or what slipped through your hands. You are not the sum of your unfinished efforts or your quiet regrets. You are more than the worst moment you replay and more than the best moment you try to repeat. You are still becoming. But becoming requires honesty before it requires action. You must be willing to admit where you are without rushing to fix it. To name what hurts without minimizing it. To acknowledge what you fear without letting it decide for you. This is the work you avoided because it felt too slow, too exposed, too uncertain. Yet it is the work that leads to freedom. You cannot move forward carrying what belongs in the past. And you cannot heal what you refuse to face. Look again into the mirror. See the anger you buried because it felt inappropriate. See the sadness you dismissed because others had it worse. See the longing you silenced because it felt unrealistic. These emotions did not disappear when you ignored them. They simply went underground and shaped you from below. They want to be seen, not indulged, not obeyed, but acknowledged. You have also carried guilt that does not belong to you. Responsibility for outcomes you could not control. Shame for choices made in confusion, not malice. You have punished yourself long after correction was no longer necessary. That punishment has not made you better. It has only made you smaller. Release it. Forgiveness is not denial. It is alignment with truth. And the truth is this: growth is messy, learning is uneven, and transformation rarely looks graceful from the inside. You've been too hard on yourself. You expected clarity in seasons meant for endurance. You demanded certainty when the lesson was trust. You criticized yourself for feeling lost when the path was still forming beneath your feet. Give yourself permission to be unfinished. This moment is not about reliving every mistake or dissecting every flaw. It is about recognizing the patterns that no longer serve you and choosing not to carry them forward. You can put them down. The need to control outcomes. The habit of self-blame. The fear of disappointment. The belief that you must earn rest. None of these are required where you are going. What lies ahead will ask for openness, not armor. For presence, not perfection. For courage that moves gently but honestly. You may wonder what comes next. You may want a clear map, a guarantee, a sign that this vulnerability will be worth it. That certainty is not being offered, not because you are being tested, but because trust cannot grow where everything is already decided. But this much is true. Nothing you bring forward will be rejected. There is room for your confusion. Room for your questions. Room for your hesitations. You are not expected to arrive whole. You are invited to arrive willing. Let the mirror soften now. You have seen enough for this step. You do not need to stay in reflection forever. Insight without movement becomes another form of delay. Something is being asked of you next. Not dramatic, not loud, but real. A shift in posture. A release of resistance. A decision to stop hiding from your own becoming. That decision does not need to be announced. It only needs to be made. And once it is, things will begin to move. Quietly at first. Almost imperceptibly. But movement nonetheless. This is where the turning begins. There comes a moment when reflection must give way to movement. Not hurried movement. Not reckless action. But a deliberate step. Quiet, inward, irreversible. This is that moment. You can feel it even if you cannot yet name it. The stillness around you has changed. It no longer asks you to look. It asks you to choose. Every turning point feels like this before it happens. Uncertain, weighty, exposed. You have reached the place where neutrality ends. Where standing still becomes a decision of its own. What lies behind you is familiar even if it is painful. What lies ahead is unknown even if it is necessary. And here, in between, the question is no longer what you understand, but what you will trust. You have waited for clarity to arrive before moving. But clarity is not the door. Movement is. The path forward does not reveal itself all at once. It unfolds in response to willingness. One step opens the ground for the next. This has always been the way of becoming, faithful movement into partial light. You are not being asked to leap. You are being asked to cross. To leave behind the posture of self-protection that once kept you afloat but now keeps you confined. To loosen your grip on the strategies that helped you survive but now limit your growth. To stop rehearsing outcomes and start participating in transformation. This crossing will not feel dramatic on the outside. No audience will gather. No announcement will be made. The shift will happen within you, where decisions matter most. You may feel resistance rise. It will sound like reason. It will argue that this is unnecessary, that you are fine as you are, that change can wait. It will remind you of past attempts that failed, of promises you couldn't keep, of moments when hope led to disappointment. Do not confuse familiarity with truth. The past does not get to decide what is possible now. It only informs what you have already outgrown. You are not crossing alone. Every step toward alignment is met with support you cannot see but can sense, like steadiness beneath uncertain footing. The fear that once paralyzed you will not disappear instantly, but it will lose its authority. It will no longer be in charge. It will walk behind you instead of ahead of you. This is how freedom begins. Not with the absence of fear, but with the presence of trust. You are crossing from effort into surrender, Not surrender as defeat, but surrender as agreement with reality. Agreement that you cannot carry everything. Agreement that control is not the same as safety. Agreement that openness is not weakness. There is relief on the other side of this agreement. You have spent so long bracing yourself against disappointment that you forgot what it feels like to receive without guarding, to rest without justification, to move without self-interrogation. That way of living is available to you again. But you must leave something behind to enter it. Leave the need to explain yourself. Leave the habit of anticipating loss. Leave the impulse to measure your worth by outcomes. They cannot cross with you. You may grieve them. That is natural. They were companions for a long time. They helped you endure seasons you did not choose. But they are not meant to define the next one. There is also something you are being asked to carry forward. Carry honesty, not as confession but as alignment. Carry humility, not as self-erasure but as openness. Carry courage, not as force but as steadiness. These will be enough. As you step forward, you may notice how quiet everything becomes. Not empty, focused. The noise that once crowded your thoughts loses its grip. The urgency that used to feel chaotic becomes intentional. This is the sound of direction. You will not suddenly feel certain about everything. Doubt may linger at the edges. Questions may remain unanswered. But something deeper than certainty begins to anchor you. Commitment. Not to an outcome but to a way of moving through the world, present, responsive, rooted. This commitment changes how you respond to obstacles. Instead of interpreting difficulty as failure, you will recognize it as refinement. Instead of retreating at resistance, you will pause, adjust, and continue. You will stop asking, "Is this safe?" and begin asking, "Is this true?" That shift alone will transform you. You will notice changes not because you are trying harder but because you are aligned differently. Your energy will be directed instead of scattered. Your attention will deepen instead of divide. Your choices will simplify, not because life becomes easy but because you know what matters. The crossing is not an escape from reality. It is an entrance into it. You will still face challenges. You will still encounter loss, uncertainty, and effort. But you will meet them from a different center. One that does not collapse under pressure or disappear in fear. You are not becoming someone else. You are becoming yourself. Without the layers of defense, without the constant negotiation with doubt, without the weight of proving anything. This is what happens when surrender becomes trust. Pause here. Feel the ground beneath you. Feel the shift in your posture. Something has changed even if nothing around you looks different yet. This is how real transitions begin, internally, quietly, irrevocably. Do not rush to the next step. Let this one settle. Because once you cross, you do not return the S. What you have crossed into does not announce itself with noise. It begins with rearrangement. Not of your surroundings but of your inner landscape. Priorities shift without force. Old urgencies lose their grip. What once felt overwhelming now feels negotiable. What once demanded all of your attention no longer commands it. This is not detachment. It is clarity. You are being reordered from the inside out. For a long time, your life was organized around reaction, responding to pressure, expectation, fear, and necessity. You learned to build your days around what was loudest, most urgent, or most demanding. That way of living kept you moving, but it never let you rest. Now something quieter begins to lead. You may notice that certain habits no longer satisfy you. Distractions that once numbed now feel empty. Conversations that once filled space now feel thin. This is not judgment. It is discernment emerging. Your inner world is being tuned, and what no longer aligns begins to fall out of rhythm. Do not mistake this for loss. It is refinement. There will be moments when you feel slightly out of place. between who you were and who you are becoming. This in-between can feel disorienting. Old patterns no longer fit, but new ones have not fully formed. Resist the urge to rush clarity or rebuild the old structures simply because they are familiar. Let the reordering complete its work. This process is not random. What is being removed made sense for an earlier season. What is being established will support what lies ahead. You are not shrinking. You are being recalibrated. You will begin to recognize how much of your energy was spent managing perception, how you appeared, how you were received, how you were measured. That constant self-monitoring exhausted you more than you knew. Now, as alignment deepens, that vigilance relaxes. You begin to act from conviction instead of comparison. This is where peace starts to grow, not as a feeling but as a foundation. Peace that remains steady even when emotions fluctuate. Peace that does not depend on circumstances cooperating. This peace is not passive. It is stabilizing. With it comes discernment, the ability to recognize what deserves your yes and what requires your no. You will feel less obligated to explain your boundaries, less tempted to justify your needs, less willing to betray yourself for approval. This is not selfishness. It is stewardship. You are learning to tend your inner life with care because you understand now how easily it can be scattered. Attention is precious. Energy is finite. Direction matters. So you choose more deliberately. You begin to notice what strengthens you and what drains you. What invites growth and what feeds fear. What leads you toward honesty and what pulls you back into performance. These distinctions become clearer as you stay present. The reordering also touches your understanding of time. You no longer feel the same pressure to rush. Urgency gives way to intention. You move with purpose instead of panic. You recognize that progress does not require speed. It requires consistency and truth. You stop measuring your life by productivity alone. You begin to value depth over breadth, faithfulness over visibility, substance over appearance. This shift may unsettle those who knew you only by your output or availability. Some will not understand your changes. Some may resist them. You may feel the urge to explain, to reassure, to soften your boundaries so others remain comfortable. You are not responsible for managing others' reactions. Growth often disrupts familiar dynamics. That does not make it wrong. It means it is real. As the inner structure changes, you may also feel a renewed sensitivity, an awareness of what moves you, what grieves you, what fills you with quiet joy. This sensitivity is not fragility. It is responsiveness returning. You had numbed yourself to survive. Now you are learning to feel without being overwhelmed. That balance takes time. Be patient with yourself as you adjust. There will be days when the old patterns try to reassert themselves. When distraction feels tempting, when control feels safer, when retreat feels easier than presence. Notice these moments without condemnation. They are not failures. They are invitations to choose again. Each time you choose alignment over avoidance, the new structure strengthens. Each time you pause instead of react, clarity deepens. Each time you speak truth gently but firmly, integrity grows. You are being reshaped for sustainability. The life ahead of you requires roots, not constant motion. It requires depth, not constant noise. It requires awareness, not constant urgency. This is why the reordering matters. You are being prepared to carry something meaningful, not as a burden but as a calling. That calling will not be revealed all at once. It will emerge as you live from this new center. Trust the process. Trust the quiet adjustments. Trust the subtle shifts in desire. Trust the moments when something inside you says, "This matters," even if you cannot explain why. You are not losing yourself. You are shedding what never belonged. Let the reordering continue. Do not interfere with it by rushing ahead or clinging backward. Stay attentive. Stay grounded. Stay open.